States of America doesn't negotiate with terrorists.
Who said anything about negotiating?
I'm Tom Butler. I'll be moderating the discussion, so let's just quickly introduce our community members who are joining us right now. First up, we have Andrew Innes. Andrew is from Hatfield.
Hello.
Hello, Andrew. Hello. And we've got Daryl Sharp, who is, looks like he's on a building site. Daryl, you're in Telford.
Yes.
And you're a fellow Scot like Gerard, so I'm sure you'll get along famously. So now we're going to cut over to the studio where Chris will be with Gerard.
Gerard Butler,
hello, how's it going? All right.
How are you doing, sir?
Very good, yeah.
The IGN team went out to see Olympus Has Fallen together the other day and had a complete blast with the movie. So for our readers who won't have seen it yet, can you tell us a little bit about the plot?
Well, in the movie, I play a character called Mike Banning, who's a Secret Service agent. At the beginning of the movie, I'm basically the president's right-hand man, but in the beginning of the movie, there's a tragic accident, and in the performance of my duty, I save the president, which is what I'm supposed to do, but unfortunately his wife dies, which kind of puts me in a position of a fall from grace. I now end up working at the Treasury, and it's right in the middle of the Korean conflict, which obviously we have going on today. There's the South Korean delegation coming to meet the president, and in the midst of that, there's a terrorist attack where basically everything is taken out and the president is taken hostage. We now have a standoff situation with the crisis room and the president in the bunker, hostages being executed, and me in the inside of the White House, and we kind of go from there. So really, it's the fallout of that in terms of what's going on between these three places and the political fallout internationally, and ultimately it's a tale of heroism. It's it's in your darkest hour. What does that bring out of you? So it's it kind of, as you said earlier, Ryan, it has it all going on.
Yeah, and I feel like in the last 10 years, kind of post 9/11, this kind of films have become very serious. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one was a bit more fun. I mean, we were laughing and cheering along with it. Was that part of the appeal of the project?
Absolutely. And it's very hard to do because it's post 9/11. Post 9/11 allows it to be a movie that will be in some ways more affecting, because you already have taken all of that baggage that the audience have, and then you tell this story, and that's why you said in your screening and all the screenings I've been to, audiences are applauding, they're cheering, they're whooping when you're kind of getting back at the bad guys, because you have all that anger and all that vulnerability inside you, so you're very sensitive to this story, yeah, I mean that's how it's been working anyway.
And what was the appeal of playing this specific character?
Well, he's a badass. I love playing a hero. The hero's always more interesting when he has his principles and he'll stick to them no matter what. But life is not exactly going his way. It's just Antoine Fuqua, who directed Training Day, which is one of my favorite movies. Coincidentally or not, both our favorite movies are Apocalypse Now. And it's that hero's journey down the river into the darkness where he has to deal with his own mind and the challenges ahead. And that's what this movie's about. It's really about, it's just, yeah, it's about this this guy who's out to redeem himself. He has a point to prove, and yet you get a chance to delve into his psyche and see him at work. I mean, he's brutal and he's uncompromising and he's well trained. At the end of the day, though, he's up against a bunch of guys who are the same. So what's going to make the difference now? And it's that extra bit of heart and it's that extra bit of spirit. So for that, it was good to play that character and make him as tough as possible, but then humanize him. We really wanted to humanize all the characters in this movie. That's why we got Morgan Freeman, Aaron Eckhart, Melissa Leo, Angela Bassett. This is an action thriller, but we have 2 Oscar winners, 2 Oscar-nominated actors, and everybody else they're all phenomenal actors. So you could take this journey with people and really believe that you're in the bunker with the hostages, and that you're in the crisis room with the officials, and that you're in the White House with a former Special Forces Secret Service agent.
And bring me on to a question actually that came through our Facebook from a chap called Ryan McGrath Paper. I'm not sure if that's
that's great.
His question was, what was it like to work with Morgan Freeman? Now, I'm not sure if you shared any scenes with Morgan Freeman in the movie.
No, but I produced this movie, so I did spend quite a bit of time with him, which was cool. So that to me, that's a story in itself. When I first got the movie, it was just me, and I took it to director Antoine and said, you want to jump on board and make this movie, and then suddenly Aaron says yes, and then Morgan signs on. So Morgan comes to set, and I got to tell you, the thing about Morgan is, when he's on screen, there's always a mellowness to him, but as a person, he's incredibly vibrant. So he's right in your face, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Morgan Freeman. How are you?" And I mean, in a great way. He's just such a pleasant, easygoing guy. And when he came on set, the whole thing, the energy, just everybody from the grip, electricians, the focus pullers, to the caterers, was just up. And so I did spend a lot of time with him. I just didn't have any scenes with him. But since this movie, I just got a call from his agent the other day saying Morgan really wants to do something else. So I'm like, are you kidding me? Awesome. I'm there, man. I'll do every movie with Morgan Freeman.
And it looked like a pretty physical shoot. So how did you prepare? And do you have a favourite fight in the movie?
Yeah. You want shorter answers, by the way?
No, these are good.
Okay. Just sometimes when looking around, I'm going, okay, maybe I'm talking. I have a tendency to talk too long in answers, so I apologise.
It makes my life easier.
Okay, cool. Well, so I've done a bunch of action movies before, and they're generally, whether it's sword fighting or whether it's fighting, there's a way you learn to move, and you learn how to take a hit, you learn how to block a hit, and then you start from that base, and then you move in whichever particular direction. What are you saying about the character? I was working with Navy SEALs, and these guys are well versed, a lot of them, in many different martial arts. Our stunt, our second unit director was an ex-Navy SEAL. He was like, and he's 7 different martial arts. So you work with them, and I had been doing some Wing Chun myself before, so we threw in some of that, and then you mix it with that, and then improvisation. Because one of the things that these guys are great at is you're not always sitting with a gun. You're not always in the right position that your training taught you to be prepared for. So a lot of it is about, what do? You go into a joint, you case it out, you go, where's my escape? Where would I be attacked from? What would I use if I had to use a weapon? Like right now, I'd probably hit you in the head with that microphone. And you'd go like,
this is going all right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going well, don't worry. Which is where the Lincoln bust idea came in from. That if you're going to do it, you got to do it in style.
Yeah.
So there's that. So you just get in there and you train and you choreograph scenes, and they'll set up an idea, and then I'll move it around with some that I think is maybe going to be more brutal, or can say something more about my character, maybe a surprising way to go like that. And the audience go, "Oh my god!" Yeah, exactly. See, that's because in this movie, I got to say, because of 9/11 and other terrorist attacks, and because this initial attack is so appalling. It's so cold-blooded. I mean, we pushed it to the limits, but it allows you to come back a long way. It gives you a lot of mileage and a lot of space to say, okay, you as the hero can go as dark as you want to go, and the audience are going to not just let you, but they're going to love you for it.
Yeah, agreed. I'm going to throw it open now to our Gerard Butler fans. So, Andrew, you're up first. I think we've got a question about remakes and reboots. So, say hello to Gerard.
Hi, Gerard Butler. This is a bit crazy. I think that's actually the other guy's question, if I'm honest.
Okay. You've got
your question.
You've got one about Reign of Fire.
Oh, yeah. It was my second question, but I wanted to know what it was like actually filming that, because it's like one of my favourite films, and I think you're pretty awesome in it, so I just thought I'd ask what it was like filming that.
I had a great time filming Reign of Fire. I mean, it's interesting. You kind of learn your trade on the way up, because now, for instance, I'd play Mike Banning. I'd be playing the equivalent of the Matthew McConaughey role or the Christian Bale role, but in that movie, I was like the 3rd or 4th lead. So you get to watch these great actors and see how they handle taking on a lead performance. And then you go into the dark, misty mountains of Wicklow, where there's mist and fog every day. and you really feel like you're in another time. You're expecting dragons to come out of the sky at any moment, and we built our own castle. Exactly like we built our own castle and ramparts, and you lived there for 4 months. So it kind of start to get into the feeling of that world, muddy, dirty. You're starving. There's nothing to do for entertainment except that's that great scene, the Star Wars scene, playing out the fact that that's now become like folklore. It's not a movie anymore. It says it's an old story, which maybe Olympus Has Fallen in 200 years. They'll be telling around campfires. Who knows?
Let's hope
and
so.
I think you've got another great question, Andrew. So do you want to?
Oh yeah, like you do a lot of action roles. Like you played law-abiding citizen, 300 and stuff like that. But like, do you prefer doing those sort of roles or like your comedy roles, like Ugly Truth, like Bounty Hunter, stuff like that?
It depends. It depends how I'm feeling at the time. If you've done a couple of intense action roles, then you're going to the physical therapist every day, getting steroid shots in your in your upper back. Then you start to think, hey, maybe it's time for a romantic comedy. But sometimes you feel the need that you want to laugh and you want to get involved in a more romantic story. Other times you feel the need to get the adrenaline going. But I say that, and yet at the same time, I don't have a general plan. When 300 came along, I'd made a Viking movie, and I'd played Attila over the years, and I had sworn that I wasn't going to do another Sword and Sandals epic. And in fact, I went to meet Antoine for King Arthur, and I had to fly from London to LA, and I didn't even want to go because I said, I'm not even interested in this. But I went, and it was one of the worst meetings I ever had. I read each scene once, and he said, thank you. And years later, I met him for another movie, and I said, you're a dick, by the way. I just want to tell you that. He's like, what? And I said, I came all the way, and blah, blah, blah. And then ever since then, we became like best friends. So and Antoine now directed this movie, and we're working on like 4 different movies. But yeah, I kind of keep going off at tangents, but I think it depends. At the end of the day, to be honest, it depends on the script that comes in front of me that I say, wow, that's what I really want to do right now.
Fair enough. Cool.
Thanks, Andrew. Great questions. And Daryl, I believe you have a question about remakes and reboots.
I love the hats.
Yes. Hi, Jared.
Hey.
Yeah, it's safety. With all the remakes and reboots, Batman, Total Recall, would you be open to that type of movie? And if so, what do you think about The Running Man as a possible option?
About what?
The Running. What do you think of remakes and reboots? And would you be interested in doing a remake of The Running Man?
Yeah, do it.
I guess Gamer wasn't that far off that style of movie.
Yeah, a lot of people said that was like a remake. I mean, it didn't feel like a remake to me, but I actually, Gamer, not to change the subject, but that kind of broke my heart, that movie, because I thought it was such a great idea. And, not everybody got it, but the ones that got it really dug it, because it was a great notion of the state of the future and human morality in relation to cyberspace and gaming. But I mean, maybe that put me off doing a remake like a Running Man. But I'm not opposed to remakes. At one point, I was sitting on the script for Escape from New York. We could just never get it right. But I signed up to that shortly after 300. So I'm not opposed, but at the end of the day, it has to be a really kind of new and fresh outlook on an idea. If you're going to take it, you got to take it and do something different. Interestingly enough, we've been talking about, and this sounds crazy, but the franchise of The Saint, and doing something like that, and really kind of taking an idea and throw it. It's like we did with this, by the way, because this is an original idea, but the original script was very different in what you now see in the movie. It really was written like an 80s action movie, and it was very sci-fi, and there were a lot of things that were a little bit hokey and unbelievable, and we wanted to take it and fill it full of real believable characters and make the attack as grounded and as real as possible, with relevance to what's happening today, what kind of attack might happen today, and what that would look like, and what the aftermath would be like, and then so really take you in as believable a ride as possible, always remembering that it's still a movie and it's still entertainment. But I think that I like the idea of being able to invent roles, like to invent a Leonidas, not play the third Leonidas, or to create a Mike Banning, or rather than to be on number 9. Don't get me wrong, I think Daniel Craig is an amazing Bond, but that's tough. You're immediately taking on a whole legacy of abuse.
Does that mean we won't be seeing you as the next Bond?
Well, they probably won't be offering me the next Bond, but it's never say never. But it's I think we could do it just fine without me.
Cool, great question. Thank you, Daryl. Tom, have you got any questions from the Twitters?
Yeah, I have a question here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we go.
Great. From, I don't know if they're real name, Two Evil Twins. And they would like to know, Gerard, they loved you in Phantom of the Opera. Can you still sing after you break your neck bones?
Break your neck bones?
That is, by the way, can you ask them, are they called, because that was the name of our production company, Evil Twins Entertainment.
A true fan.
A true fan, yeah. And we had to change it because there was a company called Evil Twin, and who make movie trailers, and they sued us, and it ended up costing us $25,000. And it's taken us 2 years to think up a new name. That's how imaginative we are in our production company.
What's the new name?
I can't even say because we're checking right now.
Right, okay.
Because this time we're doing so many checks because the lawyer actually told us Evil Twins was fine. So we were working with Evil Twins, and then we find out like a year later that that somebody else was called that. So we were told this new one was fine, but we're checking every avenue to make sure that we don't, in a year's time, find that we have to pay somebody else $25,000-$50,000 for a name. But when we reveal it, your heads might explode. That's how incredible it is.
Wow.
What was the question?
Can you still sing having broken your neck? I didn't know you'd broken your neck.
You didn't know I could sing?
How did you break your neck?
On this movie.
Wow.
But it's, well, what happened was, by the way, this is how I found out that I'd broken my neck. Because last year, this doesn't sound very Olympus Has Fallen, but it's not like I sing a lot now, but when I sang in Phantom of the Opera, when I first sang for Andrew Lloyd Webber, I'd only had like one singing lesson, and then to find out if I was even wasting my time. And then when I sang for Andrew Lloyd Webber, by that point I'd had maybe 3 or 4. It was 2 weeks later, and one thing he said was, your head voice, which is your high voice, he said, is perfect. You have a beautiful head voice considering you've never been trained. And that's something I'd always noticed when I was singing, that I could actually sing very, very high, and it was very pure. Over the last 2 years, that stopped happening. And I don't just mean it wasn't great, it just disappeared. It's like, ah! So I went to this specialist in LA, and he put a camera down my throat, and they film it. It goes on video. And he said, you have a serrated voice box. I won't get into the details why, but he just said your voice box is serrated. And I went, okay, cool. And he said, so you know, if you take these pills, it's going to stop the thing that's causing the serration, and it'll be fine. I didn't take the pills because I'm not good at doing that. And I went back after this movie because, you know, I've still got. Shortly after the movie, I went to the doctor, and he looked down again, and he said, well, the voice box actually is not as bad, but he said, but you've got a growth in your throat, a little thing sticking out. And he said, and you should have a look at it because it's probably fine, but it might be something. So I then went for an MRI and a CAT scan, and I was a little bit nervous. I'm like, oh my God. And the radiologist walks out and says, I think you have a broken bone sticking out in your neck. And I went, yes! And she didn't know why, but I was like, I was over the moon because, to be honest, it doesn't bother me. I don't even notice. It's tiny. But they sent for a second opinion, So I went to another doctor at UCLA in Los Angeles, and he said, you actually have 2 broken bones in your neck. So I'd broken the hyroid and the thyroid. Interesting names for bones, right? But they don't bother me at all, and I think it can't, because he said, what have you been doing in the last year? And I said, well, I know I was going for about 4 months and banging my head against walls and thumping on the ground, and so yeah, that was one of many injuries that I picked up in Olympus.
And can you sing now?
No.
Damn, my next question was going to ask you to sing.
By the way, can I just tell you this? You just reminded me. There's this great movie about the truce in World War II. Remember that in Christmas Day, the armistice, when they got up, and then at the beginning, they all played football. And at the beginning of this guy's lying in a hospital bed, and he's been injured, and the doctor's basically saying, the doctor's sitting going through what's wrong. He's saying, your arm's broken, your lung's been punctured, your spleen's been injured again. You know, this is, and he literally lists about 25 things that are wrong with the guy and that were already wrong with him. And he finishes, and the guy just says, well, he says, will I be able to paint? And the doctor looks at him like he's basically just told the guy that he's basically screwed. And he says, what? And he says, will I be able to paint? And the doctor goes, yeah, you'll be able to paint. And the guy says, good. Because I couldn't bloody paint before. That's good. That's great, right? And immediately you go, this is the kind of movie I'm in. That's the Olympus Has Fallen humor, you know, where it's like humor that comes out of dire situations. And that's why I love reading scripts, because one little moment like that, and immediately you're into the tone of the movie. See, when you look at your watch, I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, because I know I'm running out of time. Tom, do you have another one?
We are running out of time, but I've got a message from Professor Chaos 112 on IGN. He wants to know if you're going to have a cameo in the 300 prequel. Can you say anything about that yet? Yeah,
no, I'm not. It's really. I originally had a role in there, but I was making Olympus Has Fallen, and I couldn't do it. And there was talk of maybe me doing, once they put it together, of maybe me doing something in it. But to be honest, it's too late now. They got to go. The film's coming out in the summer, so I'm not going to be in it, and that's a shame. But I'm sure it's going to be a great movie, and I wouldn't probably be sitting here right now talking to you guys if it hadn't been for 300, because it was probably my most important movie and my proudest movie, and so I wish them the best with that. I'm sure it's going to kick ass, even without me in it.
We were wondering in the office, actually, how often did people ask you to say, this is Sparta? Is that something that happens a lot?
Yeah. And by the way, I very rarely do it, but I did it the other day when I was at the Jimmy Kimmel show in LA.
Right.
And somebody actually brought a Spartan helmet.
Okay.
And they gave me the helmet, so I put the helmet on, and suddenly I felt, oh, wow. And I went, it's Sparta. And I guess somebody filmed it in the crowd, and the next minute it was on YouTube, and it was on Reddit, and it was all over the place, and it was a cool moment. But the last 2 people who have asked me to say it, including on the radio yesterday, they both got it wrong. One said, say it, I am Sparta. I said, this is Sparta. Yeah. And then yesterday on the radio show, this guy said, he is Sparta. And I'm like, can you imagine that I'd said on set, he is Sparta, and everybody's like, no, that's not what you say. You say this is Sparta. Oh, sorry, yeah, you say this is Sparta. Anyway, I get it more often than I care for, but it's you know what? It's fun. It's amazing that it's amazing how memorable a line can become when you overact hugely.
I think we'd be doing our community a disservice if we didn't ask you to do it. Would you do it for us, Jerry?
He did. He just whispered it.
Well, it's not...
Okay. Should I do it?
Yeah, I think you should.
By the way, I just quickly say, when I did this line, I did it so many different ways. I did a "This is Sparta," and I did a "This is," and then we finished the scene, and then I said to the director, "Wait, just let me try one crazy one." He's like, "Go for it." And I went up to the and I went, "This is Sparta!" And I kicked him, and everybody around the set was like this, like almost laughing. And I went back and I said to Zack Snyder, the director, I'm like, all right, that was too much. He went, "Yeah, but it was awesome."
I think we're time to wrap up now, Chris.
And that's how you make movie history.
That's how you make movie history. It's also that one, ready your breakfast and make hearty. Because tonight, we died in hell. And it's like anytime you just go, whoa, then people are either going to laugh, or even if they do laugh, but they're going to remember it. So I might start doing that in all my movies now. Would you like a cup of coffee?
Well, I can't think of a better way to end this interview. So thank you, Tom, on the Twitters. Thank you to Daryl and Andrew. Really appreciate the questions.
Thanks, Daryl and Andrew.
And most of all, thanks to Gerard Butler. And go and see Olympus Has Fallen, because it's a blast.
I love the hat, Daryl. I'm going to get me one of those. And the glasses, man.
Yep.
Where are you from?
Cumbernauld.
Cumbernauld! I love it.
Cool.
Okay,
right,
thanks for everyone for joining us. Thanks a lot, Jerry.
Cheers, Daryl. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks.
Thanks to everyone for joining us. That was Gerard Butler talking Olympus Has Fallen. Obviously, if you want to stay tuned to IGN for the latest movie news. Thanks to Daryl, thanks to Andrew. Sorry to Jamal, who wanted to join us. I don't know what happened, but we'll get you on next time. But thanks a lot, and see you soon.